You're right, all. If you're new to the channel, obviously excuse this extremely amateur way of doing this, but I am an amateur YouTuber and I'm not really that concerned about making it all professional. It's more about what the point is that I'm addressing that matters to me. So I've returned to Derby today, first time in a couple of weeks, and the first video I've come across while I've just been having a look through what's on is from, to give them the credit, is Jangri Bootneck, ex-Royal Marine, and here's what he's on about with Derby.
Ajit Atwal was recently elected as the new mayor of Derby, succeeding Jed Potter. This transition took place at the annual mayor making ceremony on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025. Two things. First of all, it's nice to see the word transition written down without it involving an 8-year-old lopping his cock off. So first of all, positive to begin the day with. Secondly, Ajit Atwal. Where do I know that name from? From the BBC in March 2014, Derby councillor Ajit Atwal will not...
Yeah, I hope you don't do me for copyright there, mate, but I'm trying to give you like free publicity because we're on a similar wavelength, let's be honest. But yeah, so this is the Derby that I'm returning home to. Now, what this video is about, the main context, the main content, is what we're talking now. 2 weeks ago, we had the VE 80th anniversary on the Thursday, wasn't it? So just over 2 weeks ago. Now, the classic saying that people always say is, at least we're not speaking German. That's the old classic, it's almost like pulling the string out the back of a doll. You know, people have had these thoughts put into their brains and they can't think to say anything else. I mean, come on. Now more than ever, this narrative can't go on for much longer. Because you think in 20 years, you know, there's a lady called Hannah that comments on my channel from time to time, but she said it perfectly. Where are we going to be in 20 years' time? 10 years' time? 5 years' time? But in particular 20 years because it's the 100th anniversary of VE Day. How much longer can we keep this ridiculous narrative going? And particularly with all the wars we've been involved in the last couple of years, you know, whether it be Afghanistan, we withdrew from there, 4 years ago, 2021, having achieved nothing after, 15, 16 years worth of fighting in there, you know, loads of people killed, but on both sides for nothing. Iraq, where you've got people laughing and joking at banquets about the weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist, whilst you've got private contractors stagging on oil fields. Libya, you know, Gaddafi was going to create his own currency, so it became a bit of a pain to them, so we'll go and wipe him out. You know, he had that country well under control, and also he had the Mediterranean, North African, Mediterranean Sea to Europe invasion, which happened after he died, began. Syria, you know, I think he was going to create his own currency and maybe he got gold and oil, you know, in Syria, and probably didn't have a central bank to a certain demographic. So again, you know, this same cycle over and over again, and obviously we're seeing it now with the Putin-Russia thing. You know, there's plenty of minerals and gas fields in eastern Ukraine, which I'm sure is the main reason that we're trying to go for that country. But back to the point, how much longer can we keep up this narrative that we were the good guys in World War II? And you know, that old saying, it's always the good guys that win the wars and the victors write the history books. Surely people must be looking around at this country now and around at towns and cities and be wondering, this doesn't quite make sense. If I could figure it out at the age of 14 or 15 as a secondary school student who got, you know, F grades and U grades in his GCSEs because I deliberately slept through most of my exams, but I must have a certain element of common sense, because at the age of 15 or 14 I could remember thinking this narrative doesn't make sense, because areas of Derby even back then were being colonised by Pakistanis and Indians. Normanton, for anyone who knows the city. So even back then I was like, well, this doesn't make sense. So if we were like this glorious, victorious nation that saved the world from a dictatorship and this tyrannical monster in Germany, then why is our own country turning into like a mini India or Pakistan? And this, of course, leads me on to this. You know what I mean? So this is how I've been taken over by the back door. I'm sure I went to school with someone called Atwal, and it might actually be the same family, because I'm sure he was getting into politics with the Liberal Democrats. So it might, you know what? It might even be him. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, this picture here was from 2014, I've just noticed. So 11 years on, they've managed to get into power. And let's move across to history debunked. You know, I'll give him his credit. He's another Sheckelstein agent, I reckon. But I'll give him his credit. You know, 99% of what he says is accurate. Cool. Just trying to get it to play.
Hello again. We are frequently told, indeed it is almost an article of faith among some people, that if somebody's born in England, then he is as English as anybody else, no matter where his parents might have been born. Anybody who suggests that a person born in this country of Pakistani parents is less English than somebody whose family have lived here for centuries is denounced as some kind of racist.
Anyway, to the point, what he's bringing up is Rotherham, obviously that bloody infamous, is it town or city? I think it might be a town. That infamous town, with obviously we know what, the grooming gangs, let's call them what they were, the rape gangs, let's be honest, you know, of young English girls. They've now got, obviously, what's she, like a Pakistani Muslim mayor? And apparently what she said is that she's more concerned about Pakistan's interests than England's, funnily enough. You know, the obvious one to turn to then is Sadiq Khan, you know, or is it white people don't represent London? And there is some truth in that because, you know, you've got the Last Whites of the East End drama. For anyone who hasn't seen it, you know, the BBC documentary from 2016. I brought it up on this channel enough times for those who've seen it before. But there you go, if you want to go and find it, just sort the focus out. Last Whites of the East End, 2016. You know, they talk about it, the ethnic cleansing of the white British people down there. And you know what? While I'm thinking about it, this is all unscripted, it's all spontaneous thoughts that come into my mind. As I say, I'm not a professional YouTuber, but someone said to me the other day that the English are going to be, or the British are going to become like wanderers. We're going to become people that wander the earth, you know, like we don't really have any roots anymore. You know, we don't belong anywhere anymore because we've been kicked out of our own country, basically. And there's some truth in that because I know someone who's moved up to Scotland, you know, to one of the Isles, up that way. And the same can be said with Londoners. Most people from the East End had to move out to Essex. A lot of people from Essex then moved up to Suffolk to get away from the people moving out the East End. You know, because it's a totally different mindset and culture. Because that's how it goes, and people just move on and on and on until, because the people in the East End were moving to get away from, namely the Africans and all that coming in, they're spreading out now. I've seen it enough in Essex. Essex is getting swallowed up now. People packed up, moved away from the East End, and now that demographic that moved in is now moving out to Essex, and eventually they might move to Suffolk and Norfolk, but for the time being, not so much. Yeah, and so when I typed in the mayor of Dagenham, obviously I've covered this the other day about 28-year-old Nigerian woman. Come on, get in focus. But you've also got these other people down there I've come across. What's this? Tinubu congratulates 2 British Nigerians on historic mayoral election in London. So this is how we're doing it. We don't need a war or anything like that. It's just keep taking over by politics, essentially. Town councils. So one of them's taking over Dagenham and the other's taking over Islington. So this is how we're doing it. So the main bulk of the video, the title, obviously. So what did we fight for? Because we've been taken over by another method, haven't we? It's not by force or violence, it's by just generally moving in, and we pack up and leave, and they move into politics, they move into institutions, and they take over that way. They take over legally, essentially. So I think it was Joseph Goebbels that he said, the British keep up their lies even at the chance of looking ridiculous. There will come a time when all the lies will collapse and the truth will prevail again. Something along them lines. And it's happening right now, because nobody with an ounce of common sense can look around at modern day Britain and think that this was the VE Day, that, you know, the future, them people storming the beach of Normandy or parachuted into Arnhem that fought for. No one could really believe that. But it has to be said, you know, them people that fought in that war, I wish you'd been a bit more vocal over the years and actually, you know, made an effort when you were having slimy politicians like Tony Blair coming to shake your hand, or while they were selling your country out at the same time. Admittedly, though, it's the last 20 years where things have really, really nosedived, particularly probably the last 10, 15 years. You've either got the man who fought the bank, so the man who fought the bank, and it'll come up and you'll see a totally different narrative on there. And then the other one is, of course, Dennis Wise, who did a fantastic 28 episode, I think it is, documentary, should I say, The Greatest Story Never Told. And you can get that there, so there you go. So if you want to see a different narrative, there you go. Dennis Wise also, by the way, he did Communism by the Back Door. And I think he actually lives out in Eastern Europe or something now. But yeah, Communism by the Back Door, you can find it. You can find all these clips if you want to see a totally different narrative to everything you've been told. And yeah, so, you know, as it's common sense, isn't it? So we fought to be a minority in our towns and cities. We fought for grooming gangs. We fought for the high levels of interracial mixing, which is going to breed English people out of existence quite quickly. And it's not just happening here, obviously, it's the whole Western world, Australia, New Zealand, America, Canada, Western Europe. And obviously now they're trying to create some big bloodbath between all the Western world, essentially, and the Oriental nations in like a big World War III situation. If that comes to an end, if that happens, then comes to an end, the end result will be they'll probably try and bring all the Africans in, and then that'll be like a complete blackwash where we've been taken over. Should that happen? I don't know, but it's just speculation. But regardless, I don't believe that anyone can be this stupid to still keep believing that the narrative they've been sold about World War II is the correct one. Because no one could, as I'll say it the last time, no one could look around at modern day Britain with people trying to escape it because it's turning into such a hellhole, and believe that we were the good guys, essentially. I don't know if I've quite made it, but that's going to have to do. So, cheers.